On today's show, are Dereck Lively and Daniel Gafford one of the best center duos in the NBA? They may be a little bit lower than you think. We'll tell you how they can get higher on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have cracked.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help me.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me from the great Slightly Biased YouTube channel, hoping for a Cowboys win this weekend. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
Well, this is coming out on Thursday, right?
Oh, a win tonight, right?
Now, a win tonight against the
That's right.
mighty New York Football Giants.
Forgot they played on Thursday. Yeah.
I hope a lot of you guys took my advice from a month ago when we talked about over-unders, and I said the Knicks, that 52.5, 53.5, the under looks spicy. Mitchell Robinson out till January.
Tough. And so today, speaking of, we are going to rank the best center duos in the NBA. So a starter and a backup. You don't get you don't get Gobert, Towns, and Naz Reid. You get Gobert and Naz Reid as your starter and your backup, right? We're not adding Maxey in this. We're not adding Dwight Powell. Sorry for all the Dwight Powell stands out there.
That changed it.
You get two guys on here. And so we went through every team. We decided who's the starter, who's the backup. We're going to start ranking them. We'll go through. I got some tiers on where we think some of these teams and players are. But let's start here slightly. Dereck Lively and Daniel Gafford. A great center duo to me. Just rain, manna from heaven. You know how us white people like to say when we get rain, like the other day we got rain here in Dallas, like, man, we needed that.
Yeah.
You know how that, you ever said that?
I definitely say that.
I've said it. My family had a text thread that was back in Ohio that was like, we got rain. We needed that. I was like, oh, we're texting about this now. And so that is exactly what Lively and Gafford are to the Dallas Mavericks. Like, hey, we needed that. We really needed that for the Dallas Mavericks. And so this is, talking about these two guys, they're just such exactly what the Mavericks need in this spot. And looking at some of these center pairings, it's subject to what do you want from a center duo, right? You've got a Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein that give you some things. You've got a Porzingis and a Horford that give you different things. You've got a bunch of different combinations. And so this list is very subjective. We had a lot of the same players in the ranking that we did on Tuesday, where we did the best, the second best player on each team. Like, we went on a run where 5 or 6 of them we had the exact same. I don't think we're going to do that today because it's so subjective in what you want. But with Lively and Gafford, you get great rim rolling, you get rim protection, you get rebounding, you get some playmaking in the short roll with both of them a little bit here and there. You get maybe a little bit extra. Maybe Lively has a little bit extra this season that he brings offensively. Maybe Gafford is a little bit, is even somehow more efficient than he was, having a better connection with Luka. And I love this center duo and where they are. I did not have them in the top 10 though, which I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised by when I started to go through this.
Okay. I mean, I have them in the top 10, but like you said, it's very subjective, and it depends on when you're ranking this, especially when you're ranking duos, like a starter and a backup. It becomes, well, Gafford is maybe the second best backup big in the NBA behind Naz Reid. In fact, I would say pretty comfortably the second best backup big in the NBA behind Naz Reid, assuming Hartenstein starts, which on this list, we didn't have him starting, but I think he will end up starting by the end of it. Then it becomes, okay, the Nuggets backup big is Dario Saric.
Yeah.
But am I realistically taking the Mavs duo over Jokic and Saric? No, I'm not.
No.
That duo. I'm not. But they are a great duo, though. There's so many stats by the end of the season that was like, those two combined pretty much got 48 minutes a night, and it was like 15 points, 13 rebounds, like 3 or 4 blocks a game. Like, those two, production-wise, is just exactly what the Dallas Mavericks need. So you don't have them in the top 10. I have them in the top 10, but for the Dallas Mavericks specifically, They are pretty much exactly what they needed. And like this is what the Mavs have needed. They just needed good center play. They haven't needed top 1, top 2, top 3 center play. Yeah. They've just needed good center play for years, and they finally have it.
So let's just list off some of the teams. We'll go back and revisit the top and go back and parse between how we picked these. But let's just go where we had the Mavericks. So I had the Sixers 1 with Embiid and Andre Drummond. I had the Cavs 2 with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I had the Thunder at 3 with Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. I had the Nuggets at 4 with Jokic and Saric. I had Celtics 5 Porzingis and Horford. Timberwolves at 6 with Gobert and Naz Reid. And that was the end of my tier 1. I had Wemby and Zach Collins at 7. Anthony Davis and Jackson Hayes, unfortunately, at 8. The Grizzlies guys and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey at 9. Bam and the rookie Khalil Ware at 10 for Miami. I had Domantas Sabonis and Alex Len at 11, and then I had our Mavs at 12.
Wow.
That's
I
where
had
I
the
went.
Mavs at 8 is where I ended up.
Okay. Give me who are the teams you had above them?
Okay, so here we go. Here comes me getting yelled at. Part 1. I have the Thunder number 1.
I'm okay with that. They're very good.
Chet and Hartenstein. If we're just going the balanced attack, Chet's very, very good. Expect a second-year leap. Well, technically third year, but second-year playing leap. And Hartenstein, out of this list, I know Naz Reid. We all love Naz Reid. If Hartenstein's a backup center, he's the best backup center in the NBA by a lot. Yeah. So I have them number 1. Timberwolves number 2, similar things, where the starter isn't like the MVP candidate that other teams have, but is very, very good. And they have very, very good backups. Then I went with the Sixers 3, Nuggets 4.
Okay. I had Nuggets 4. Same thing.
Embiid, Jokic, right? But I like Drummond as a backup center more than Saric, who's the Nuggets. Then Cavs, Heat, Lakers, and then Mavs.
Cavs, Heat, Lakers. I'm surprised. Okay, a couple of them that I'm surprised. I'm surprised you have the Mavs ahead of the Spurs.
So that was a difficult one because Wemby's obviously incredible. I don't like Zach Collins. I'm just not really a fan of him. And, that was the Spurs were the team where I had to basically talk myself into having the Mavericks ahead of them. And the Celtics, who I also have the Mavericks ahead of. Ahead of. KP's going to be out until January.
That's
Horford's
tough.
an old geezer. So that was pretty much the deciding factor there for me.
I went into it assuming some health, but I guess we already know that about Porzingis, so I probably should have factored that in a little bit more. But the Mavs.
I have the Knicks 28.
Yeah, I did factor the Knicks one because that story happened today. I had them at 28 as well, which is hilarious. We have them at the exact same spot. The Mavs being at 8 for you and 12 for me. It's exactly what they need. That's good enough to be. Right. I think that's good enough to be a title team, right? You don't need the top 5 like you said.
No, and people might be upset that we didn't have them higher. I think some people think that they're top 3, top 4. They're just really. I mean, it's hard when there's teams that have MVP candidates.
Yes.
And Defensive Player of the Year candidates, as their go-to guy for center. But again, the Mavericks, it's just 48 minutes, and I think that's what's nice about the duo is one can be heard, and you're still getting very similar production. You don't have to change your game style. You don't have to change your game plan. That's been a problem with the Nuggets forever, where they just can't seem to find these backup bigs that obviously nobody can replicate what Jokic does, but they can't even come close to finding somebody who can pass the basketball, or it just changes how they play when he's off the court.
Since they had Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, Plumlee. Cousins, I mean, remember that washed up Boogie went there and was actually good because he could pass. So that's why I'm interested in Saric there. But I mean, it's the Mavs being where they're at is very good for their team.
It's great. I think they're in a great spot. I'm surprised. I think some people will be surprised we didn't have them higher, but to me, I would take the All-Star, All-NBA level player over the 2 solid players. So my tiers were the top one was All-Star player and a good role player. The Thunder guys are a little bit, they're a little bit overqualified role players. I don't think either of them are going to make an All-Star next season.
Chet can make an All-Star game,
but not. I don't think next season.
It's possible.
Okay, big leap from him.
If they're the number 1 team, if they have the best record in the NBA.
They were like that team last year.
True.
Then my second tier was like great player and then just a guy. The Spurs, the Lakers with Anthony Davis, Jackson Hayes, the Grizzlies with Jared Jackson and Zach Edey. Maybe he's better than a guy. Heat with Bam Adebayo and then Kings with Sabonis and like Alex Len or whoever. I'd rather take the All NBA All-Star player over even what the Mavs have with like two solid guys. For the Mavericks, I think I'd rather have the two solid guys. But I'm not asking for the Mavericks. I'm just saying like blank NBA team with no players on it. Who'd you rather have or kind of start your team sort of with? So
yeah, for the Mavericks, you'd much rather have Lively and Gafford than Sabonis and Lin for what the Mavericks need.
Right. Coming up, let's get into why we put teams where they are, and we'll go through the rest of our list, the best center duos in the NBA. We'll talk about all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. I feel like that's gone up since we last talked about Prize Picks. Easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to pick is more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and then you watch the winnings just roll in. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Best way to get in on some of the sports action if you can't do some of the other sites, things like that. Texas can do Prize Picks. Gotta love that. So if you're tuning out because you say, "Wow, my state won't do that," you can play Prize Picks in Texas. You can play it. One of them is 1 Caleb Williams passing yard will get you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. So you still got some time. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free dubs. Don't miss on this deal with Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. You can combine. If you're like me watching like NFL games and WNBA games on the same screen, like going back and forth, you can play Prize Picks and play some NFL players, WNBA players, and all kinds of stuff like that. All you have to do is pick more or less on their stat projections. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNBA on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed when you put that $5 in. Prize Picks, run your game at Prize Picks. Also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase for comedy, concerts, theater, all that kind of stuff on Game Time. They have all kinds of great things, views from your seat. You can also use that all-in pricing deal. You go into the site and on some ticketing apps where you're like, all right, these tickets are $200, and then you go to the end and it's $560. You go, where did the rest of this come from? Game Time will tell you if you toggle the all-in pricing feature. Just turn on all-in pricing, and up front, you'll see exactly what the price is going to be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Guess what day it is?
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. For your second listen today, go listen to Locked On NBA. It's Thursday. That means I was on Locked On NBA. So go listen to that unless something terrible happened to me. I'll be on Locked On NBA. Wherever you're listening, watching this, or on Spotify, Apple, or on YouTube, go listen to Locked On NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Slightly. We're going in on the center duos. We picked a starter and a backup, and we're ranking them all. You have Dallas at 8th. I have Dallas.
I have an announcement. I just changed it during the ad break.
Oh, no.
I have them at 9 now. I moved the Spurs up. The Spurs ranking didn't make any sense for what my qualifications were. I moved them to 6. So the Mavs have gone down to 9.
You moved the Spurs you moved the Spurs to 6. So you're moving down the Heat, the Lakers.
In the Mavs, yes.
Okay. These are fluid lists. I'm okay with them being fluid during the show.
Well, I was talking about how I was agreeing that you'd rather have like the MVP caliber guy, and then I'm like, why is Wemby 10th? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I think the tops of our list kind of make sense. We kind of have this similar type team. The Celtics I have at 5 because I like those guys, but I'm with you. I probably should have moved them down because of injury, but I'll just leave them there for now. The Timberwolves being second. Talk me into the Timberwolves being second, but like not the Nuggets being up there.
Well, I kind of looked at it as in if you have a really good starter paired with a really, really good backup center, I valued that a little bit more than maybe a top-end starter and like a really weak or relatively weak backup center, which I think Sarge is.
Yeah, which makes your Thunder pick at the top make a lot of sense because Yeah.
If you were saying that actually, we'll say Hartenstein's going to start and maybe it's Jay Will as the backup, then that changes things pretty quickly for them.
But we did that with the Cavs. We did that with the Cavs too, with like Mobley and Allen. So it's I don't know. Some of these are,
and if that's what you're going with is Mobley and Allen, then they're top 5 in my opinion because both those guys are really good.
Yeah. Which you have at 5. Okay, you have Heat, Lakers, Mavs. Who do you have at 10?
Celtics.
Okay. We're in the same vein
that's
here.
The really good. Both guys really really solid. And if like we were just going turn off injuries, these guys are playing every game or whatever, then they'd be higher. But KP's going to miss a few months, and with him, who knows what that means. And Horford is 48 years old, so
don't fact check that one.
Yeah, don't fact check that one.
I had the Heat at 10 after the Memphis Grizzlies. I had the Sacramento Kings at 11. Who'd you have at 11?
I had the Kings at 11.
Oh, we the same again.
So, I mean, Sabonis, great. Alex Lynn, just like, okay. I mean,
do you have the Grizzlies at 12?
I have the Grizzlies at 24.
Oh my God.
but this was me not understanding the assignment that we were just strictly going off the list you sent, because I thought Jaren Jackson's a 4. This is Edie and Brandon Clark. So then that's where I put them at 24. But if Jaren Jackson is,
I was gonna say, where would you put him if it was
center?
Jaren?
Oh, I mean, maybe 17 or 18. I don't like Jaren Jackson as the center at all. I don't like it.
I'm gonna put him at 7.
His spot.
I'm putting him at 17 for you. So
thank you. That was just I don't know if 17 is even right. I just said it.
That's the biggest difference we've ever had. 9 and 24.
I mean, I just don't think Jaren Jackson, we've seen this time and time again. His center is not where he belongs. He can't rebound the basketball.
I don't trust that they're just going to play him next to Edie all that time and that Clark will come in and be the center, right? When Clark comes in, Jaren Jackson Jr. is still the center.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I think he's I just think he's the center.
It's actually one of the biggest questions that marks the entire season across the entire NBA.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's true. 12, who'd you have? I had the Mavs.
This is where I put the Rockets.
I had them at 13. So yeah, we're right there.
Şengün and Steven Adams, who we haven't seen play in a year.
A long time. He played 42 games for the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Last season.
I mean, if we didn't do the third guy, but if you just want to say Jock Landale, that you could do worse.
I don't know you could do worse than Jock Landale right now.
He was pretty good in the Olympics, and you know how much that
not good.
You know how much
last year.
You know how much for some reason I carry the Olympics. It holds a lot of weight for me.
Oh, it's not surprised you ended up Embiid at number 1.
Was he that good?
Also, you have the Timberwolves at 2. So how much Olympics are you putting into this? Gobert didn't even play for his team.
That's a good point. I'm not consistent. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just I pick and choose when I value certain things.
The name. He comes honestly with the name, guys.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, how about this? I hold good Olympic performances much higher than I hold bad Olympic
There you go. Yeah. You didn't hold it back from Jamal Murray when we did the second star.
That's true. Again, I just pick and choose.
It's all of it supports my narrative or not.
Yes.
Who'd you have at 13? Because I had the Rockets there.
So this was admittedly a very last second thing. This is where I put the Warriors, and I
have them at 14. We went back. You and I went back and forth because originally I had Looney and Trace Jackson Davis, and I was going to put them in the 20s, put them really far down. And then I went back and looked through their roster. I said, okay, let me just make sure that I have all these right. And Draymond started like the whole last end of the season at center, and I thought that they would just reset that and move Draymond back to 4 this year. But then I asked Chuck from Locked On Warriors, and he said, I think they're just going to do Draymond starter and Trace Jackson Davis. So if it's Draymond, then they've got to be top 15 to me because that's how good Draymond is.
Looney looked beyond washed last year, which is kind of crazy because he's not like he's 34 years old. Like he should still be playing at a high level, but it just looks like that's gone. Like it just doesn't look like his game is so dependent on being like endless motor, super physical, and it just didn't look like he had that last year. And if it's Draymond and Trace Jackson Davis, I mean, Draymond's still really good. And Trace Jackson Davis had a really, really good rookie season. Yeah. So you can do way worse.
Yeah, definitely. I put them in like the 2 solid player category with the Mavs, Rockets. My next team was the Milwaukee Bucks. I had them at 15 with Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis.
I had the Pacers at 14 with the Bucks at 15. So
there you go. Yeah, I had Pacers at 16. So we're like right in the same zone right there. Pacers with Miles Turner, Isaiah Jackson. Miles Turner he gives you a lot.
Yeah, you know what you're getting from Miles Turner. Isaiah Jackson's pretty good too. So that's nothing wrong with where we have them.
Yeah. Who do you have at 16?
So this I feel like there's no way we'll agree on this one. Just judging off of what we said in our last video, I have the Nets here.
Okay, and then that's at 23. So not crazy off, but yeah, this is great. This is the best unit the Nets have. The only good unit the Nets have.
Yes, I like Nick Claxton quite a bit. I think he's a very good basketball player, and Day'Ron Sharpe is like quietly a really strong backup big. I think it was a couple years ago. I was doing mock trade or something, and I was trying to figure out ways to get Day'Ron Sharpe on the Mavericks. He has like historically high rebounding rates. So it's a pretty good unit.
Just Oscar Tshiebwe, but NBA version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nets at 16. That's kind of surprising. Coming up, where do the rest of these stand? Where do the Suns stand with their group? Where do the Clippers stand? Some of the other teams in the West that the Mavs are going to be facing. We haven't even mentioned the Knicks, which I think we have the same spot. We'll talk about all those teams and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds and things that you can use to get on the action. Have fun with it. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with big returns on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Do you think I said that? It's bold on the copy. Is that how you would say something bolded? Big. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page. You can get your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. You don't have to win the bet. You just place it. We're recording this a little bit earlier in the week, but the Dallas Cowboys are a 4.5-point favorite against the Giants. So you can go check out that. There's all kinds of other stuff. You can check out some of the WNBA odds for the playoffs going on. Championships odds, as I'm looking at this, Liberty plus 125. They had a good win the other day. The Lynx plus 250, the Aces plus 280, all kinds of great stuff at FanDuel. Again, that's FanDuel.com.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, slightly biased. We're pretty much the same here with some of our teams here in the top. I think we've got
all doors.
And now it's just going to go completely out the window because this group of teams is just, I don't know what to do with some of these. We're ranking the best center duos. We picked a starter and a backup. And so I had Indiana at 16. You had the Nets at 16. I had the Toronto Raptors at 17.
That's where I have the Raptors as well.
Okay, that's where I put the Grizzlies for you. So should I put the Grizzlies at 18?
Okay, yeah. Yes, because I would put... Sure, yeah. Well, I think we talked about it in the second best. I don't think it might have been before we went live about Jakob Poeltl. How the Raptors, some Raptors people think that he might be their second best player because they are much better when he plays.
Not just some Raptors people. Our host of Locked On Raptors, my good friend Sean Woodley, he said Jakob Poeltl is their second most important player, which is sort of in the same vein that we talk about Lively, which I found kind of interesting. Yes. He said the Raptors were 4-28 without Jakob Poeltl last year.
Yeah, and their numbers specifically with Poeltl and Quickly together were very good. So he's a very good pick and roll threat.
Yeah.
And I think he's a little underrated maybe across NBA circles, Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah. So it's Poeltl and Kelly Olynyk with the Raptors. I had them at
Kelly
17.
Olynyk, good backup big too.
Yeah, solid. Future former Maverick.
Future former Maverick, for sure.
Former future Maverick, I guess. Maybe.
Former former Maverick.
Speaking of former future former Maverick, I had our boy Clint Capella and Aneka Okongwu at 18 with the Hawks.
I had them much lower.
Really, you're low on
washed. I just think Capella's washed, and Okongwu has disappointed me to no end. I had the Trailblazers at 18.
Oh, yeah, the Trailblazers at 20. No, you have the Grizzlies at 18.
Okay, then I'll put the Trailblazers at 19. I'm okay with that.
You move everybody else up. Where did you end up having the Hawks?
20. Well, hold on. Let me change my Grizzlies grading right here. 24. 24, surprisingly.
Okay. No, that's not surprising. I think they'll be okay. I think that's an okay group. That's two solid-ish players.
Doing stuff like this really makes you realize how talented the NBA is because you think Capella and Okongwu, you're like, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. And then you map it out and it's oh, that's pretty low on my list of center duos.
And you know what it does? It really spells out how special this center duo for the Mavericks is.
It spells out how embarrassing it was that their center rotation was as bad as it was for so long. That it's Capella and Okongwu, which most people would say is a good passable center duo, is 23rd. It's the Mavericks were just, nah, we're rolling out Willie Cauley-Stein.
We would have slit throats for Clint Capella.
former Mavs.
Kongwu. We were talking about trading the pick that became Dereck Lively, and many Mavs fans were convinced they should do it.
Yeah, that was a dark time. That was a dark time.
And speaking of which, I have the Blazers at 20 with DeAndre Ayton, the other player that Mavs fans wanted to trade for.
Yeah, I had the Blazers at 19.
Yeah, so right there. Donovan Clingan, I think if he's pretty good, I think he could move these guys up this list a little bit.
So that's why I had them in the top 20, because I thought they'd for sure be in the 20s. I'm just kind of out on the Ayton experience. Good player, whatever. They also have Robert Williams, but he's injured right now.
Yeah.
Clingan is an interesting rookie.
This one I didn't have any idea what to do with. 21. I went the Clippers with Zubats, and then it's Mo Bamba. Zubats, really good player, like probably a above average starting center, but Bamba, it's not a great combo.
So I put the Clippers at 26 only because I think Mo Bamba is one of the worst players in the NBA, and I cannot believe he's going to be getting minutes.
He's pulling down Zubats.
He's actually one of the worst players in the league. So former Mav there as well.
All of a sudden, the Clippers, we talk a lot about like the Paul George, obviously, but then Derrick Jones Jr. and all that. They went from Zubats and Plumlee and Tice to now Zubats and Bamba. That is not a good, like, if something happens to Zubats, their center thing is like maybe worse than the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think about who else they have. Don't they have Kai Jones? Do they still have him on the roster?
Is that a name that you're bringing up to me right now?
Yeah, Kai Jones. I mean, it's not. It's weird. We always get to this point in the season where like people start talking themselves into literally every team. Like this is like experts and analysis. They want to have a team that they call correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Because you just feel like a genius afterwards. And I've started to see some, I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers got the 5th seed. Buzz from some people whose opinion.
And where?
Yeah, I know. Like the 5th in the draft lottery, it's possible that they get there. But people's whose basketball opinions I really respect. And I'm just like, do you actually think that? Or are you just kind of.
I honestly think that Zubats and Bamba are their only centers. I mean,
yeah,
PJ Tucker is a power forward. Kobe Brown. Yeah. Kai Jones, you mentioned. Like Trenton Flowers is a two-way guy. I don't even know how tall he is, to be honest.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
No, it's very tough. So yeah, but I respect Zubats because he did.
I do respect Zubats.
He was really good in the playoffs.
Yeah, I respect Zubats.
Who do you have at actually 20?
The Bulls. This is where I ended up going with the Bulls.
I have Bulls 25. Didn't really know what to do with them. Bulls is Vooch and Jalen Smith, and like I just don't know where Vooch is at this point in his career.
I know Vooch is a very difficult player.
But at this point, the difference between 20 and 25 is not that.
Yeah, big. So it's small.
Who do you have?
And I do kind of like the idea of Jalen Smith, kind of a little bit.
The idea of him.
21 Pistons. In my mind, maybe they're higher than the Bulls. Jalen Duren is becoming an interesting player to sort of watch. Because the stats and everything, a double-double machine, like a guy who can
got a lot.
Put up 2020s. Like, I wouldn't say easily because that's a very hard thing to do, but a guy who can put up 2020 games. But last year, it started to reach a point with him where I saw Pistons fans like, yo, this guy is very bad on defense to the point where it's like very harmful to the team. And so that's going to be interesting to watch going into year 3 for him if that's something that continues.
So it's Jalen Duren and Paul Reed, and you just made the case why I have them at 27.
Okay. I mean, I won't argue. Like, we're at this point now where none of these teams are, like, great.
22, I have the Suns.
22, I went the Magic.
Oh, I had the Magic at 19. I had the Magic at 19, so a little higher, but yeah, not too bad. The Suns with Nurkic and Plumlee. I do like that duo, but again, it goes back to your point of like, okay duo, feeling good, feeling okay about those two players as like solid NBA players, but you don't get higher than that because there's some all-stars on this list.
Yeah, and they would have been much lower, like going into last season. But Nurkic played pretty well, like was healthy.
Yeah,
I expected literally dirt from that center duo, from that center production from their roster, and they got pretty good stuff. So I have to see it to believe it again for the second time.
All right, I had Brooklyn Nets at 23, Hornets 24, Bulls 25, Jazz 26, Pistons 27. We both had the Knicks at 28. Because Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for a while, and I did factor that one in. Wizards at 29 with Jonas and our boy Rashawn Holmes. Pelicans on their own tier, 30. Daniel Tice and Yves Missi. I asked Locked On Pelicans, Jake Madison, and he's like, yeah, Yves is probably going to be the backup center. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is an interesting spot to be in.
So I think there's just no way it's not Zion in closing lineups, at least. There's just simply no way.
Yeah, but we were ranking who their starter is and who the backup is. So
I just cannot believe they go into the season with Daniel Tice opening tip-off. Opening night, jump ball, he's there, center circle. That's disgusting, man. For a team that wants to be competing, I just can't believe that.
Okay, you had Magic at 22. Give me 23.
Hornets, I like Nick Richards, or not Nick Richards. Sorry, I don't like Nick Richards really at all. Mark Williams.
Yeah, I do like Mark Williams.
I do like Mark Williams. It hurt most of last season. Hawks 24, Suns 25, Clippers 26, Jazz 27. We'll see. Walker Kessler was on the Team USA World Cup team and then was in Summer League this past summer. So just like a very weird situation there. Knicks 28, Wizards, and Pelicans.
Also, we agreed on the bottom. We agreed on the bottom three, basically.
And the Wizards one might be a little harsh because Jonas is good. So, but
Rashawn Holmes is their backup, who they paid.
Yeah, walking trade exception right there.
Pretty much. So there you go. That's how we have them ranked. Mavs at 8 or at 9 for Slightly, and at 12 for me. Let me know what you guys think about that. We'll be back. Isaac and I are going to rank some more things. If you missed some of the other ranking shows this week, go back and check wherever you're listening, watching this. We had some others. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Subscribe to the Locked On Mavs Insider program to get some more. Text the link or text the number or click the link in the description. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
If the Mavs lose today, you won't hear from me ever again.
The Cowboys.
The Cowboys lose today. This will be the last you ever hear my voice.